Ah, the Korean War. Heard that was a cold day in hell, gents. Want to hear a story?
A violent but true bedtime story?
You're daggum right.
Yes, sir.
Why don't you go have a seat? Have you heard the story about the Korean War vet, William Rankin? Well, he had a bad day after the war. This is one of my favorite stories. Anyone who knows about USMC Lieutenant Colonel William Rankin knows him as a man who rode the thunder. His day was going just fine at 6 p.m. on a summer night in 1959 as he was flying his F-8 Crusader high above the storm clouds. He was cruising at 500 knots, 47,000 feet above the East Coast, when his plane suffered an engine failure. Everything went wrong all at once, and he was forced to eject. He was 9 miles up, and he immediately found himself hurtling through the negative 50-degree air. The extreme decompression caused his body to swell, causing his blood vessels to rupture. He soon had blood pouring from his eyes, nose, mouth, and ears, and was suffering from immediate frostbite. Pulling the ejection lever even ripped half of his goddamn finger off. Lieutenant Colonel Rankin's day had taken a sharp turn towards shitty, and it was about to get worse. Much worse. After 5 minutes of free falling and trying his best to hold his mask to his face just to breathe, the barometer on his chute deployed way too early because of the pressure in the storm. He was now dead center inside of a hailstorm with high winds. William was getting pelted in the face with golf ball-sized hail while being thrown in every direction, including up into his chute from the updrafts. The violent spinning caused him to throw up multiple times, so he had to remove his mask. This was poor timing because the hail had turned to heavy rain. The amount of water hitting his face was so intense that he had to hold his breath to keep from drowning. Could you fucking imagine that? He was in danger of drowning at 25,000 feet in the goddamn air. He described the lightning all around him as blue blades, several feet thick, and thunder that he could feel. He passed out just a few times through all of the chaos, and eventually descended into a forest. After slamming into a tree trunk and regaining his composure, he looked at his watch. It was 1840. He had been falling for 40 minutes, but wasn't out of the woods yet. He was frostbitten, bleeding from every hole in his head, covered in vomit, and his finger was hanging on by a thread. He marched to the nearest road and hitchhiked to the nearest phone to call for an ambulance. The sorry sack that picked him up only drove him to a phone. That guy was kind of a real dick, eh? Rankin lived another 50 years, and man did he have a hell of a story to tell at parties. He ended up passing away in 2009. I don't know about you gents, but I like to keep my feet on the ground. Speaking of which, it's time for my goodbyes. The road is calling. More people to educate. Bye.
Hey, I'm a little thirsty, man. Where's the nearest VFW at?
Let's see if we can get a shot invented called the Blue Thunder. The
I'm
Rankin
in.
Storm.
I am in.